Hi, I'm Linda. Welcome to SLO City Church. We're glad you're here.
You make it easy. You make it easy to love you. You are good and you are kind. You bring joy into my life. You make it easy to trust. Faithful every time. All I want, and all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. You are the refuge. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. And I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you. Nothing to fear, for you are by my side. And I'll follow you anywhere. Oh Jesus, you came to my rescue. Upon that cross, you redeemed all that I lost. Now my whole world's revolving around you. You're the center of my life. You're the treasure. You're the prize. And all I want is you. Jesus, all I want is you. And you are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that brings me through the night. And I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you. Nothing to fear, for you are by my side. And I'll follow you anywhere. I'll follow you anywhere. Oh, oh, oh. I'll follow you anywhere. Oh, oh, oh. And wherever you lead me, and whatever it costs me, and all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, and whatever it costs me, and all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, and whatever You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. And I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you. Nothing to fear, for you are by my side. And I'll follow you anywhere. I'll follow you anywhere. God is able, He will never fail. He is Almighty God, greater than all we ask, greater than all we see. He has done great things, lifted up, He defeated the grave. Raised to life, our God is able, and in His name we overcome. For the Lord our God is able. God is with us, God is on our side. He will make a way, far above all we know, far above all we hope. He has done great things, lifted up, He defeated the grave. And raised to life, our God is able, and in His name we overcome. For the Lord our God is able, and God is with us. He will go before, He will never leave us. He will never leave us. God is for us. He has open arms. He will never fail us. He will never fail us. Sing lifted up, lifted up. He defeated the grave, raised to life. Our God is able, and in His name we overcome. For the Lord our God is able. For the Lord our God is able. For the Lord our God is able.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for worshiping with us this morning. I am really excited because today my good friend Mike Hickerson, lead pastor of Mission Ventura in Ventura, California, is up to be with us to continue week 3 of the Brave series. But before you get a dose of Mike Hickerson, I have a few announcements for you. First is we have a unique opportunity as a church to be one church for one need, one cause, one person in our community that we can help. Our one for one for this morning is with Gary and Susan. Gary and Susan had racked up in immense debt due to medical expenses and hardships in their life, and they are now finding themselves living out of a tent in a park. Some of our friends who are a part of SLO City Church have come around them, have befriended them, and they want to just help them in any tangible way they can with food, with sleeping supplies, and hopefully to one day purchase them an RV. Now we know we may have the means to purchase an RV on the spot, but we want to just provide them with basic necessities to come around them in this season. And so that's our one-for-one for Gary and Susan. If you want to make that donation, you can go to slocity.church/give. As always, we want to be a generous, open-handed church. And so if you would like to give, you can do so at slocity.church/give, or you can download the app and you can give, set up reoccurring giving. That might be easier for you to do it there. We are excited about things that are coming up. I know that we just had a rollback and the dimmer switch dimmed on us, but as a church, we believe fully that this is not a church that is dependent upon four walls, a dark room with lights and haze and all the hype. We want to be a collection of people that live the way of Jesus and bring hope to every single person. And so we're going to continue to do that. We've got some exciting announcements coming this week, so stay tuned to Instagram and Facebook. There are some outdoor opportunities for us to worship together, for us to serve together, and for us to continue to be a together people. Groups are off in the distance, but they're coming soon, and we've got a unique opportunity that we're excited to roll out to you. So I'm going to stop talking and introduce you to my good friend, Mike Hickerson, as we continue this Brave series. We are so glad you're here, and enjoy the sermon.
Well, what is up, SLO City? My name is Mike Hickerson. I am honored to be the lead pastor of Mission Church in Ventura, California. But I am more than pumped to be a part of this church. This is one of my favorite churches in the country. I cheerlead you all the way down the coast. I am so excited for everything that's happening in and through the people that make up SLO City, and man, just honored to be a part of this. And I love Brent and Jenna. I love the whole team here, but lots of people can, teach like Brent and lead like Brent and be winsome like Brent and lead worship like Brent. I'm not at all jealous. It's super normal that people have that amount of gifts. But really what we know is the secret behind it all is Jenna. So good on you, Jenna, for keeping him sane. No, I love their family. I am so proud of this church and the people that make up this church and what God has done in and through them and through you, and how He is reaching you, how He's transforming you, how He's helping you reach people, helping you reach your neighbors. I think because we're all called to this, we help people find and follow Jesus. That's what we're in together. That's what we're doing together. And just because COVID hit doesn't mean the Great Commission is done. So we're all trying to figure out how we get about that together, because that's the most important thing that we have in this life. So a little bit about me, because you have no clue who I am. That's fine. I am a lead pastor down in Ventura. I'm married to Jody. She's way better than me. She's been up here teaching before. She's awesome. I have 3 daughters. So fellas, if you want to pray for me, that's a lot of estrogen in my house. So I have an 18-year-old daughter that just graduated high school. She's going to be a freshman in theory at Grand Canyon University as soon as they can gather physically, which should be in September. I have her name's Hayden. I have a sophomore, getting ready to be a sophomore daughter that's 15 and trying to figure out how to drive, named Bryce. And then I have going to be 7th grade daughter named Tyler. They're all boy names. You just have to get over that. I'm their dad, so figure it out. But they're awesome. They play soccer. I'm a soccer dad and try to be all that. So I just love, I love the church. I didn't grow up in church, so you need to know I call a truce every time that I teach, because I'm not a church kid. I was the furthest thing from church kid. I never attended church. The first time I ever went to a church is when we visited my grandparents' house in St. Louis. And my mom told me to tell my grandma that we always attended church. So I was like, okay, Mom. And I walked into the church and there was robes on men. And I'd never seen a man in a robe before in my life. And so that's when my mind, church was men with robes and orange juice and donuts. That's all I knew about church. But then what happened to me is that God got a hold of me and rescued my life. I had a good friend that invited me to experience what not church was, but faith in Jesus was. And it literally changed the trajectory of my life. And so I call a truce every time that I teach, because I know that not everybody grew up in the same way, thinking the same thing about God or Jesus and the Bible. And you need to know that that's okay. Because I believe that God is who He says He is and will do everything that He promised to do. And if it's remotely true, if we could just call a truce for today, for an hour, if it's remotely true that God is who He says He is and will do everything that He promised to do, then that has massive ramifications for our life. and it's a journey worth going on. And I believe that he sent his son Jesus into the mess to rescue people like you and me. Not because we're awesome, but because he is awesome. And he rescues and saves us and restores us back to much-loved sons and daughters of him. And that means there is hope for every single one of us. Not because of what we've done, not because of how good we are, because we're not good, but because how great he is, and that the hope for us is that he can transform our life and rewrite our story, because he promised that he would, and we can hold him to that. So that's what we go after together. So I know that we've been in the COVID thing, so we're in the COVID thing in Ventura too. We're trying to figure it out, an online church and all the gathering and all that stuff. So for those of you that are a part of this church and investing and inviting and probably like being transformed and also like carrying the load to help your neighbors find and follow Jesus, man, I'm so proud of you and cheering you on. What I've figured out though is that there's probably 4 options in the middle of COVID that we become. We're either going to become like a chunk, like we're going to put on the COVID-19, you know what I'm saying? Or we're going to become a drunk. I'll let you figure that out. Or we're going to become a hunk because we've really decided to work on ourselves, or we're going to become a monk. So I don't know which one you're navigating, so you can put that in the chat. That's probably one of those options. You're probably not going to out yourself as a drunk, just saying, but this is a safe place to do that if you need to. But put one of those out there that you're doing. I love the story that we're getting ready to go in and the heroes of the Bible, and it's not just a story that's cool to like have like a story time, but it's actually history. And so it's a story about brothers and family. So we'll just have another, like if you're in the chat, we're going to type this out too. So if you're like the oldest, like type in oldest in the chat. So if you're the oldest, throw your hand up and like say oldest, or like I'm the oldest. I'm an oldest, so I'll go with you on that. We're the people that our parents tried everything out on. We're the people that had the most rules. We're the people that, had to do it all right, and then all the rules loosened up for everybody else. Those like golden child idiot, that got everything kids, then your family, they're your brothers and sisters. Yeah, them. With the oldest, if you're the oldest, you know what I'm talking about. So type some of the things that your parents made you do that they didn't make your brothers or sisters do that were younger than you. So type that out. All right, and then there's the golden kids. The youngest. Baby boy, baby girl. If you're the youngest, you are. Proudly say it. You're the golden child. You could do no wrong. Nothing you did was wrong. You had no rules. You could do whatever you want. All the curfew just kind of went 30 minutes to an hour and a half to, you're so great. You don't need anything. You're entitled. I mean, you wouldn't say that. I would say that because I'm an oldest. I'm not biased. I'm just jealous. All right. So if you're an oldest, write that. If you're a youngest, write that. And I don't know who else we got. Oh yeah, middle. If you're middle, I totally forgot you were there, which has been totally normal your whole life, so you know that would be true. So if you're middle, you could write that there, and you know that that's going on. But what we're going after today is we're going to talk about a family that has some interesting family dynamics, but what God does through creating a hero through the family dynamics. And so we're going to talk about Joseph, and he was the youngest. He was the baby boy. He was the golden child. In fact, his dad gave him a coat to tell everyone how much of the favorite he was. It was a Technicolor dream coat, if you will. And he gets, at 17, like God gives him a plan for his life. So what we're going to do, we're going to fly through the life of Joseph and walk through some of the scenes of his history to see how God created a hero and what made him a hero and what he wants to do in and through us and what we can learn about through Joseph's story and through his history. So we're going to fly through it. It'll be on the app, but I want to give us a couple principles because I just don't want to teach through the Bible. I'd love for it to be impactful to us, not just a story that we think is cool. So the first principle, I'll give us 2 before we even jump into the story. The first one is that God has a plan for your life. Again, I don't know how you grew up. I don't know if that creeps you out or weirds you out. I don't know if you're anti-God or anti-Jesus or anti-Bible. I get all that. It is a journey worth going. If you're a cynic or a skeptic or a doubter, I understand all of that. No matter who you are or where you are or what you're navigating, you just can't shake it. If God is who he says he is, then he has a plan for your life. Like you, where you live, work, and play. Nothing that we're up to is a surprise to God. He knows what he gets when he gets us, and he has a plan for our lives to transform us from the inside out, to rescue and save, and then set us on mission with our life. So he's got a plan for your life, and he's got this incredible view from above. Second thing, principle, when we look at Joseph's life, it's really helpful for me to think about, is that there's this principle of God's will. And so it's like a foundational principle for me, a foundational principle for our church. And so you'll hear this a ton. You'll hear this all over the place, that God's will is way more about who we're becoming than where we go or what we do. Because I think sometimes we're like, well, I lost God's will. I didn't know I found it. What is God's will for my life? I woke up today. What's God's will for my life? What am I supposed to do with my life? What am I going to, am I supposed to wear the plaid shirt or the blue shirt? I don't know. What's God's will? God, I'm not going to wear a shirt until you tell me what your will is for my life. Am I supposed to date him or am I supposed to date her? I don't know. What am I supposed to do with my life? What if I'm in your will and they're not in your will and I miss the one that I was supposed to do and then they're like, am I out of your will if they're out of your will? I don't know what to do. No, God's will is not like a Where's Waldo puzzle or a needle in a haystack. It is not like that. That is not what God's will is. And so if anyone's ever taught you that that's what you got to go find God's will because it's hidden somewhere, then they don't know the Bible and they may not know God all the way. Because God's will is way, way more about who we're becoming from the inside out. How he's transforming us, who he's making us to be, the kind of character that we have, the kind of transformation that we have, the kind of fruits of the Spirit we have from the inside out than where we go or what we do. Because what can happen is you can be in the right place for God's will, but be the wrong person on the inside when you get there, and you're not in God's will, because you're not the right person when you get to the place that he has for you. So God's will is way more about that. He wants to be a sculptor of our insides. He wants to transform us from the inside out. He doesn't want to be a mall cop or a traffic cop that tells us which way to go and to stop there and you can do this now. He wants to develop us from the inside out and transform us that way. And so those are two principles that we're going to lay on Joseph's life, but then we're going to walk through his whole story. So here we go. So there's some scenes that we're going to walk through. And if you have the app, if you're like on the SLO City app, there'll be the Bible part will be there. We're going to fly through about 13 chapters. We're going to read every verse. I'm just kidding. We're not going to read every verse of 13 chapters. We're going to fly through Joseph's life to kind of drop into some of the scenes of his history and where God developed him, what God is doing through him, and what we can learn from it. So we're going to go real fast, but the app will have all that in there if you want to check that out. And when he's 17, Joseph gets a dream. Just Genesis 37, 3-8 says it this way. Now Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children. Parents, this is not a parenting lesson or seminar because that's terrible parenting advice right there. So don't do that. All right, there we go. Even to those entitled golden kids that are the youngest, don't do that to them. Don't do that. Okay, I'm just teasing. All right. Now Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day he gave Joseph a special gift, a beautiful robe, a Technicolor dream coat. But his brothers hated Joseph because of their father's partiality. They couldn't say a kind word to him. I don't know what kind of sibling rivalry you got going on these days at your house because you can't get away from each other, but I'm sure it's fierce, but nothing like this. One night, Joseph had a dream and promptly reported the details to his brothers, causing them to hate him even more. Listen to the dream, he announced. We were all in a field tying up bundles of grain. Sounds fun. My bundle stood up, and all your bundles gathered around and bowed low before it. And they knew what it means. They're like, oh, so you're going to be king now, your majesty. His brother taunted him, and they hate him all the more for the dream that God had given him and what it said. So this is what 17-year-old, I don't know what you were like when you were 17. I know that I was pretty humble and meek and pretty good kid. Just kidding, I wasn't at all. But he walks in as 17-year-old golden child Joseph into all of his brothers. And he's like, hey, guys, little word from God here that I think God wants the whole family to know. I'm 17, you're all my older brothers, you're my family, but how it's going to play out is I'm basically going to be the boss of you guys. You all are going to bow down to me. God gave me this dream. Isn't that cool, everyone? They're like, yeah, can you just do your chores and take out the trash, please? They're not worried about his dream at all. They hate him. 17 years old, they get a little word from God, and they hate him all the more for it. So what I want to do, though, is I want to do a little bit of Hamilton, so we'll just not rewind, we're going to fast forward, but I won't sing it because I can't sing. But we'll go, so right here, we've got the dream that was given to 17-year-old Joseph, right? And then if we just fast forwarded 13 years to 30-year-old Joseph, he's hanging in Egypt, and the most powerful man in the world at the time, the most powerful nation in the world at the time, Genesis 40 and 41 says it this way. This is Pharaoh talking to Joseph, says, you will be in charge of my court, and all my people will take orders from you. This is Joseph he's talking to. Only Pharaoh, sitting on my throne, will have a higher rank than yours, Joseph. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt. And who ends up coming to Egypt is his brothers. We'll get to that a little bit later. But you're like, yes! That is a sweet 13-year plan right there. Sign me up for the 13-year plan. Like, if I knew at 17, I've never had a word from God when I was 17, that I knew what I was supposed to be at 30, God, please, hello, sign me up for that Jospeh plan. Where do I sign up for the Jospeh plan for my life? That I know that if I just get a word from you, that you make it happen in 13 years, and if you say it's going to be here, then I'm going to end up there. Sign me up. I'm older than 17 right now, but we can work on that later. You probably should have got to me faster, but it's fine. You had a lot of work to do. But I'll sign up for the Jospeh plan right now. Whatever dream you give me right now, I want to make sure I'm in that spot in the next 13 years. Can you do that for me? Because that's what you do, right? You do the Jospeh plan for everybody. And what I'm learning, and what Joseph's story will help us realize, is that most of us, we want the payoff without the process that God has us in to get us there. That's what we want. And we want the destination of the 30-year-old Joseph, without the journey that it takes to get from 17-year-old Joseph to 30-year-old Joseph. We don't want the 13-year journey. We want the results without the requirements that it takes of our character, that it takes of our sacrifice. We want the end without the endurance that it takes to persevere through that. We want the roll without the root. And I don't know how to say it, route, I don't know. What do you want to say? I'll do whatever you want to say. So you want the roll without the roots that it takes to develop down deep, wide and deep into who we are in Christ, that's the most important thing about us? Or do we want the roll without the route that it takes to get there that God has us on? I don't know. Pick your pick. But that's what we want. That's what I want more often than not. I want the prestige without the price. So when we're all going like, man, give me a plan. God, if you are who you say you are, then you should have a plan for my life. And I'm in for the plan as long as I can know where it ends up, but I don't want to know the price it's going to take to get me there. And those of us that are like following Jesus, man. Like when you say yes to Jesus, it's not like everything is up and to the right and your life is just amazingly better and you have no problems and there's no addictions and no one dies. And it's not like that. What it is, it's a roller coaster ride that you're like, please strap your seatbelt on, keep your arms and legs in tight all the time. And it's like, you say yes to Jesus, and it's like, and then, whoosh, and you're off on the 13-year plan. You ever have one of those days, weeks, months, years, lives, like where you feel like God gave you the promise, but you're not seeing Him be available for the presence? You don't know where this is ending up. And this isn't the plan that you would have done if you were God. I mean, we don't say that out loud at parties. That's just what we think. Welcome to Joseph, one of the heroes of the Bible that we have a lot to learn from. Now, let's get back to the story, because we fast forward, we Hamilton, now go back all the way. So if you haven't seen Hamilton, you're a bad person, but it's fine. We'll talk about that later. So we get back. His brothers don't like him because he got the Technicolor Dreamcoat and he has this dream and he's a little bit arrogant. He's like, you're all going to bow down to me, and who wants to have their brothers tell him that? No one wants to tell him that. So what they do, he doesn't even have to go work. So his brothers have to go work in the fields, but since he's daddy's boy, he's his dad's favorite, he gets to just bring meals to the people that are working. So that's what he does. And they are just irritated. They hate this kid. They hate their younger brother. You think you have sibling rivalry. You don't have anything like this. So they say in Genesis 37, we'll jump back into the story, here comes the dreamer, they said. The kid, the younger brother, that we're all going to bow down to him. Come on, let's kill him and throw him in one of these cisterns or wells. We can tell our father a wild animal's eating him, and then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. Like, they hate him so much. They hate the dreams that have been given, the resentment, their anger, the jealousy, the rage. It's all boiled up. Let's just kill the stinking little twerp. We'll rip up his little Technicolor Dreamcoat that Daddy gave him to show him his favorite. We'll dip it in animal's blood. We'll take it back. We're like, Dad, I don't know what happened. So sorry. Maybe we'll get some of his hair. And so they find a pit. They throw him in. Like, we're just going to kill him and rip that thing off of him. Like, they hate him and the dream that God has given him. You ever had one of those days, weeks, months, years, lives, where the people next to you that should have been the most supportive of your dreams can't stand you because of the dream God has given you? And they resent you for it? I mean, they're not going to kill you or throw you in a well, but they just resent you for it. So they see this dreamer come out, and they're like, it's like total Batman. Bam, kapow. They take him, they throw him in a well. They decide not to kill him, because what happens next, like one of the brothers has a little bit of grace. He's like, well, maybe we shouldn't have so much blood on our hands. I mean, we can still tell Dad that he was killed, but we don't want to have blood on our hands because we would feel guilty about that. Let's not do that. That feels messy. We'll just let somebody else do it for us. Oh, hey, there's some gypsies running by right there. And then somebody sees dollar signs. Let's sell them. We can sell them, and we don't have to have the guilt of killing them. We'll just split the profits of selling them. Genius idea. So they sell them. Genesis 37:28. So the Ishmaelites, who were Midianite trainers, came by, and Joseph's brothers pulled them out of the cistern and sold them for 20 pieces of silver. You'll find that later in the Bible. I won't give it away. And the traders took him to Egypt. They got a great idea. Let's do it. So these gypsies come along and they sell their brother. And then all of a sudden, these gypsies that are heading to Egypt, they're like, well, I know how to turn a profit. This is like, you buy a stock and you sell it high. So we're going to go to Egypt. This guy's young. He's strong. Let's sell him high. We sold him for 20. Let's see what we can get for him at Egypt, and let's be done with it. So Genesis 37:36, he gets sold twice. The Midianite trainers arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was the captain of the palace guard. These gypsies go straight to Egypt. He gets sold on the auction block. The head of the army, the head of the secret service, basically, for Pharaoh was this guy named Potiphar. So he's going to go and serve in his house. And so if you're Joseph, 17-year-old Joseph, you're like, great plan so far, God. I've got this dream, and I've been beaten up, I've been rejected by my own family, I've been thrown into a pit, I've been sold to gypsies, I've been fighting sand fleas all the way in their caravan, I've been I've been auctioned like some animal on a slave block, I've been bought by some military guy, and I'll probably spend the rest of my life polishing his boots at best. Great plan, God. Thank you for letting me in on the plan when I was 17 of what you were going to do in my life. Ever had one of those days, weeks, months, years, lives? Where the promise doesn't seem to be paying off. What you thought God would do in and through us or for us doesn't seem to be paying off. But what I love, and what you'll find if you kind of look at the arc of Joseph's history, you'll catch this phrase over and over and over and over again. I think it's something we can learn. It's in Genesis 39:2. It says, the Lord was what? With Joseph. With. With changes everything. I remember when my wife said, I'm pregnant with child. She didn't say it like that. It was way too formal. But the with of that will change some things. She's with me, I'm with her. With the band, with means I'm for you. With means relationship. With means where you go, I go. With means you bail, I bail. With means you cry, I cry. With means you laugh, I laugh. I'll probably laugh at you, then I'll laugh with you. But with is I'm in with you. And God said, you can hold me to this. That's my promise that I'm with you. That's what we can learn from Joseph's story. The Lord was with him. In fact, 39:3-4, Potiphar noticed this, meaning noticed that there was something about this guy named Joseph and the way that he worked and the way that he carried himself and the way that he had his identity in God, but he didn't know who this God was yet. But there was something about who Joseph was connected to that made him work differently and stand out, not because he was awesome, but because whoever he was connected to and whatever was going on inside of him, overflow. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so soon he made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything that he owned. I love this. This is not the plan that Joseph wanted, but it's what he had right in front of him. And so, man, my hope for a bunch of believers, a bunch of people that are claiming Jesus in and through our counties, in through our cities, in and through San Luis Obispo and all surrounding areas is that we may not have the dream job that we thought that God was give us, but what we do have is the place that God has put us. And we can be faithful with that. And we can go after it with that. We don't have to gripe about that, where God has placed us. We don't have to complain about that. We can be in full of integrity in that place where God has put us. We can serve authentically. We can keep our focus on God. We don't have to worry about our circumstances. We can realize like God has put us here, so why don't we make the best out of it to help people find and follow Him and make God look good by the way that we work? Joseph knew that. He gets like he's in charge of everything, and he's like, well, God, this is not too bad, actually. This whole slave deal's working out well right now. I have a pretty good gig. And then enter Potiphar's wife. Genesis 39:6 said that Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man. I did a word study there. It basically means early 40s, balding with a big nose. So that's what it means in Hebrew. You can go look it up if you want to, but that's what it means. So that's what Joseph was like. And so like Potiphar's wife is like, man, I see him, I want him, so I'm going to have him. And then she couldn't have him, so she wanted to destroy him. And Joseph didn't sleep with her when he could, not because he didn't want to get in trouble, but because he knew that the plan that God has for his life, men that have big plans for their life that God has revealed, don't live this way and take this path. In fact, 39:10 and 12, she kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her. I don't know what temptations you're navigating. It may not be that temptation, but I'm telling you, temptation will come at us day after day after day after day after day after day to take us off the plan that God has called us to. But he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around, and he went in to do his work. She came and grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, "Come and sleep with me." Joseph tore himself away, and he left his cloak in her hand as he ran from the house. Side note, he's terrible with cloaks, so it gets him in trouble all the time. But so Potiphar walks in. He decides that she's scorned, and what happens when a woman that's scorned? There's a quote about it. I don't know what it is. You'll figure it out. But basically, what happens? She's scorned, and then all of a sudden, she's got his cloak in her hand, and he's gone. She knows there's no way putting this back. So she makes up a story to get that Joseph attacked her, and then Potiphar walks back in and sees Joseph's coat, and he's livid, won't listen to anything that Joseph said, and he gets put in jail. Ever had one of those? Days, weeks, months, years, lives? When you're doing the right thing. You're trying to honor God with your life. And somehow, through no fault of your own, you find yourself behind the bars of false accusation or people talking junk about you in places that you can't even defend. Welcome to Joseph. So he gets into prison. Great plan, God. But you know what it says? 39:21. But the Lord was what? With Joseph there too. And he granted favor with the chief jailer. Joseph favored with the chief jailer. The chief jailer had no more worries after that. Chief jailer's like, man, inmate number one, good on you, Joseph. Like, absolutely. I'll just go kick back. You just run the whole thing as an inmate. Because Joseph took care of everything. It's almost like he thought, you know what? I don't know what God is up to, but I know he's placed me here, so I'm going to make the most out of it, of where he's placed me in this moment, at this time, for this reason. He took care of everything, and the Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. In the jail, right there with him, going, I have a plan for your life. I'm with you. I'm not bailed on you. I have a great vision for you. You can't see it all yet. I'm way more concerned about your character and who you're than where you go or what you do. You're my will. You're right in my will when you're walking with me. I don't worry about your circumstances. I care about who you are. So he's in jail. And then enter the cupbearer and the baker of Pharaoh. So think like butler and chef to the most powerful person in the world at the time. I don't know if they served bad breakfast. I don't know if somebody burned something. I don't know what happened, but they end up in jail where Joseph is inmate number one in charge of everything. And so if you're a good leader and you got new inmates, what are you going to go do? You're going to introduce yourself. You're going to build a relationship. And he finds out that these people work for Pharaoh. And all of a sudden, he realizes that they start having dreams. And Joseph's like, oh, dreams? I'm so good at dreams. When I was 17, God gave me a dream. I haven't, you want to go tangled right now? Don't go tangled right now. But Joseph is going, I have a dream. God gave me a dream at 17. He's like, I'm going to have all these people bow down to me. I'm going to be a great leader. I don't know what's going to do. It hasn't worked out yet. And they're like, dude, you're in jail. God, you're not good with dreams. God has not given you the dream that you asked for. He's like, yeah, it's complicated. I'm good with dreams though. Tell me your dream. So they tell him the dream. And so, long story short, is that, the baker, he goes, okay, I don't know how to tell you this, chef, but this is bad news for you. The dream means in 3 days you're going to be impaled on a pole and you're going to die. Sorry. Much love. Butler, so for you in 3 days, good news, you're going to be restored back to your position. Everything's going to be fine. The king's going to love you. Pharaoh's going to love you. It's going to be awesome. I just have one request. My name is Jospeh, and I'm not supposed to be here. Will you remember me? That's it. Just tell him, because I'm not supposed to be here. I was falsely accused. Just go back and look at the story. Do the documentary on Netflix to find out why I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. Just remember me. My name is Jospeh, and tell Pharaoh I'm not supposed to be here because God has a dream for my life. You know all the story, right? So, and then 3 days, that's exactly what happens. Chef killed, butler released. And then in Genesis 40:23, we see this little phrase, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, however, forgot all about Jospeh, never give him another thought. Ever had one of those? Days, weeks, months, years, lives, when you're like, does anyone even care? Have I literally been that forgotten? Does anyone even see how faithful I'm trying to walk this out, how much of a struggle it is, how much I don't deserve the position where I'm at? Does anyone even know? Welcome to Joseph's life. And then, Genesis 41:1, 2 full years later, Pharaoh dreamed. Man, I love the full years. Because I'm he is in it where God has placed him the whole time, and it doesn't look like anybody's getting better, and he knows everyone's forgotten him. Full years. Been there. When you think God should have shown up by now, and he hasn't showed up in the manner and the way and the speed in which you think he should have shown up, because you would do great at doing his job, and you have some suggestions for him or some opportunities for improvement for him. If you were God, you would lead your life a lot differently. And then he goes, I don't work for you. You're under my authority. 2 full years later, Pharaoh dreams. Pause for a second. Let me scoot back into our principles just to catch us back up. First one was that God really does have a plan for your life. He's not an absentee landlord that's bailed out on you. He has a plan for your life. He didn't spin the universe into existence and then watch all the travesty happen and go I wonder how they're going to deal with that. He's in it with us. Second, God's will for us is way more about who we are than where we go or what we do. Character, transformation from the inside out, fruits of the Spirit from the inside out is way more important than where we go or what we do. Where we go and what we do is important, but not as important as who we are. Third, God cares about my character, more about my character than he does my comfort. I hate this. Because growth and comfort are mutually exclusive. They do not go together. It doesn't work. And God's going, where did I say that following me would be easy and comfortable and won't cost you much or demand much from you? I've looked in the Bible. We're going to have a hard time trying to find that in the Bible because God cares way more about my character than he does my comfort. Fourth, it's important that God is at work even in the dark. Even when I don't think that he sees me, knows, or cares, or I don't even like him in this moment, God is at work for my good in the middle of that 13-year plan. God doesn't go to bed. He doesn't go to sleep. He doesn't need a rest. He doesn't take a nap. He doesn't need an espresso jolt in the morning. He doesn't need a latte in the afternoon. He doesn't need 5-hour energy to drive all the way home tonight. He doesn't need any of that. When my body flops into bed tonight, God is just fine. He doesn't need sleep. He will be working the night shift, orchestrating the events of my life. God is at work upstream in my life, even when I can't see it downstream in my present. When Joseph was sold into slavery, God's plan was moving right ahead. When he went to Potiphar's house, God wasn't caught off guard by all that stuff. When he was falsely accused and he was betrayed and put in prison, God's agenda was right on course in Joseph's life. When he was forgotten by the cupbearer, he was not forgotten by God. And when 2 years passed, past, day after day, the work in the dark, like working the night shift God was there orchestrating the events of life so at just the right moment that Joseph was just the right person so he could be in just the right place that Pharaoh would dream a little dream. So, before we get to the end, I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're navigating. It is so complex at best right now for us. Every single one of us. But God's not surprised. COVID didn't catch him off guard. Like it hasn't thwarted his plan. He is at work and he has stuff for us to be about if we'll be the right people in the right place at the right time. So we'll get back into it. And Pharaoh dreams. And all of a sudden, the cupbearer goes, oh, I got a guy. I got a guy who knows dreams. Forgot him for 2 years, but now he knows when he goes dreams. So let me just fast forward the dream. Basically, Joseph walks into Pharaoh. There's like, okay, Pharaoh, here's what you got. You're going to have 7 years of where everything is going to be bumper crops. You're going to have so much. You're not even going to believe. It's going to be unbelievable how much you're going to have. And then in 7 years, you're going to have nothing. So if I were you, Mr. Pharaoh, I'm just going to let you know, like in that 7 years, I would plan that there's going to be 7 years of famine where you can't grow anything. So plan your nation, plan your people, care for your people in such a way that in the 7 years of plenty, you can sustain the 7 years of famine, which is great financial advice, but we'll talk about that later. And then Pharaoh goes, you're no ordinary Joe. So, I'm sorry, that's a terrible joke. My girls will be embarrassed. But basically, that's what he says to him. He says, I think actually you should be in charge of this plan since you're right. If that's right, then you should be in charge of the plan. So Joseph gets in charge of the plan. In what we read about the fast forward, when Pharaoh says, I'm going to put you in charge, the only person to be above you in our whole nation will be me, and everyone has to do what you say, that's the fast forward. That's the 13-year plan. Where Joseph gets to be on the throne in Egypt. You know what happens? 7 years of plenty. Joseph leads well. In the place where God has placed him, in the position that God has placed him, and with the influence that God has placed him at. I think it's because he was faithful along the way with the little things. That he trusted that God was who he said he was and would do everything he promised to do. And it happened. 7 years of plenty. Man, Egypt save, and then the world hits famine for 7 years, and no one has food except for Egypt. The whole world comes to Egypt for help because Joseph led so well, he could help the whole world. And then these people, these brothers come in, and they're coming to see Pharaoh's right-hand man, and they got a favor to ask because they're going to starve if he doesn't help them. So Joseph's stinking brothers show up and bow down before Pharaoh's right-hand man, and they don't recognize him because he's all Egypt up. And then this is what happens. 45, 3-8, he says, I am Joseph. He said to his brothers, is my father still alive? And then maybe the biggest understatement of the Bible, but they were speechless. Because they're like, oh no, we're in trouble. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. Come over there. Come over here, he said. He probably had to say it like 17 times. Guard, they're not going to, come here. No. I know. You're terrible. Come here. I am Joseph, your brother. Just for reminder's sake, that you sold into slavery in Egypt. And they got to be freaking out. I mean, if it's me, Joseph's a way better man than me because I'm like, this is your worst nightmare, brothers. Like, it is game on. Like, I've got some pits to throw you in, individual. They'll be so nice. I've got some Midianite traders to take you on a little road trip. I'm going to sell you as an auction block. I want you to meet Potiphar's wife. She's great. You're going to love her. I'm going to throw you into prison just to see what it's like to be in prison. Like, I would want all of it back. I would want to give it all back to them. And then Joseph says this. Don't be angry with yourselves that you did this to me, for God did it. He sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. These 2 years of famine will grow to 7, during which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. God has sent me here to keep you and your families alive so that you will become a great nation, because he remembers the promise that God gave to his father, not just the promise that God gave to him. Yes, it was God who sent me here, not you. Woo. Joseph principle number 5 for us is that God's plan is always to have his person and his place for his purposes. With the right motives, the right character, the right faith, the right gifts, the right experience to accomplish his right purposes. Man, you know, it's really cool. I love the history of Joseph. That's awesome. It's so cool that he could help his family. It's so cool that he could help the world. It's so cool that he could have that influence in Egypt. But what's even greater when you start peeling back the story of why it was really important that Joseph was on that throne that day is because what's even greater about that story is that Joseph needed to be on that throne that day with that motive and that experience and that giftedness and that influence so that he could preserve the sons of Jacob, which were his brothers, which is actually becomes the nation of Israel, which becomes the people of God, which becomes the church that we would know. Like the fact that we can even have an online church, the fact that we can be rescued by Jesus, the fact that we can have hope and forgiveness and peace and like favor, and the fact that we can have like all the stuff that comes with the relationship with Jesus. It was really important for Joseph to be on the throne that day. And God's going, you think you have a plan that comes together. I love it when a plan comes together. But most of us, we don't want to sign up for the 13-year journey. We want to sign up for the 13-year result. And what I'm learning is that God is a God who has not bailed, who has a plan for our life, that cares more about what he's developing in us before he gets us to where we need to be. But when he gets us where we need to be because we're the right people, he will write incredible stories, not because we're awesome, but because his desire is to rescue and save as many people as he possibly can. And that's a life worth going for. I don't know where you are. I don't pretend to know your story. I don't pretend to know your journey with God or church or the Bible. But if it's remotely possible that he rescues and saves, and that he is who he says he is and will do everything that he promised to do, that means that we can hold him to his promise for our life and his presence in with us as we walk through this. And that's a journey worth going on, because you have no idea how God will want to use you someday. Why don't you pray with me? God, you're good, and you're great, and you're kind. And I'm so grateful for this church, so grateful for the lighthouse that it is in this city. God, would you help us to be the kind of people that live open-handed? Would you help us to be the kind of people that trust that you are who you say you are and you will do everything you promise to do? That you have not bailed on us. That you are for us and with us and run to us in the midst of all of our mess, in the midst of all of our shame. You move towards us because you're great. God, we love you and we need you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
And I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. And I see it now. I'm laying it down. And I know that I need you. I run to the Father. I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding. No reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon. My soul needs a friend. So I'll run to the Father again and again and again and again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And you saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your Son for redemption, the price for my heart. And And I don't have a context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Whoa, 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 whoa. And my heart has been in your sights long before my first breath, running into your arms is running to life from death. And I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Just as I am, you pull me in, and I know I need you now. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. And you came along, you put me back together. Every desire is now satisfied here in your love. And oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. There's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, Lord, Lord, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You turn beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Lord, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Lord, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing. Nothing is better than you.
Thank you so much for worshiping with us today. Stay connected this week by downloading the app or checking the website.